Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Ulysses 2020. Now, it's not too late to join us. We have a Voxer group too. Just hit me up on Voxer under Allen, A-L-L-E-N 770, and I'll add you to the group. It's not too late, and it's a real pleasure for me to be going through this book with a lot of these people. Some I've known for over a year. Two are in England, two are in Germany, a couple I don't know where they are, so the others are Americans, but it's really great. And most of them are coming to this book for the first time. So it is my pleasure, and I'm getting so much more out of this book, seeing things I didn't see before, coming to it from a different perspective, considering characters like Molly in a different light. Let's see, and I'm doing that because I'm trying my best not to give spoilers, which is hard in this book because a lot of information comes in the Ithaca episode, episode 17, the question and answer. When I first got my edition of Ulysses as a gift many years ago, I paged through it and noticed, like, oh, there's a play in here, what's that about? And then I noticed there's headlines in here, bold print. I had a Viking edition. There's headlines in here with bold print. I've never seen that before. And then question and answers in just paragraphs. And there's another section where it's cut off in 19 sections. Just different things like that. And, you know, and then the last one in 3 periods. There's a period at the end, and a period at the beginning, and then there's Molly's menstruation in the middle. But I say all that to say this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is my pleasure to read this book with fellow friends. So without further ado, let's get right into episode 4, Calypso. Now, the background for the Odyssey of this is, we're going to be real short with this. Calypso was a nymph, a goddess, and she had captured Odysseus on her island for 7 years, wanted him to stay, offered him everything a man's heart would desire, including a lot of sex. I'm not going to say there's a lot of sex in this episode, but it's hinted at. There's a lot of tension in this episode, and it opens up part 2 of the novel. So we're getting into, it's one of my favorite episodes. A little background on Leopold Bloom, 38 years old. He's a newspaper, he's a madman, advertising, just a salesman, a canvasser. He has to go out and pound the pavement to get ads and money. He's 5'8" tall. He weighs about 180 pounds. I don't consider these spoilers. It's just information. Molly was born, let's see, 8 September 1870, makes her 34 years old. We won't give away her weight. It's bad enough I can give away her age. But they're living in Dublin. Molly's a professional singer. And Noah brought up in group that they're not hurting for money. Money's never a question. That's her vocation, singing. I mean, she gets paid for it, and she's going on a tour. And Bloom's got a job. I wouldn't think he makes much, but they're not hurting for money. So I can't remember if Molly's father, there's a line in here about him, well, we'll get to it, about his making some money in stamps. Now I wonder if that stamps is in postage stamps or some kind of investment, but we'll get to that. First off, I want to point out that it begins with Mr. Leopold Bloom. Mr. It's 1904, a Thursday, in Dublin, Ireland. So consider that Mr. Leopold Bloom. He's eating offal. He's eating a kidney. He's going to eat a kidney inside organ of an animal. Let's see. Bloom was born an Irish Jew. He really doesn't have any religion. He doesn't practice religion. In fact, his mother was Catholic, and his father converted to Catholicism. We'll get to that. Those aren't spoilers. I have to be really careful. I love this episode because Joyce continues with his usage of onomatopoeia, making words for sounds. He starts out with this cat. I'm going to attempt to pronounce it. It's not meow meow. It's Mickey meow per meow mercayo. The cat is talking. It's 8 a.m. again. Joyce is using what I call, or they call, synchronized narration. He's telling the story at the same time. Stephen started out at Martello Tower in Telemachus, episode 1 at 8 a.m. Then he went to teach school in Nestor, got his paycheck. Then he walked down Sandy Mount Strand and ended up around 11:30. So we're talking like, meanwhile, now here's Bloom and Molly. So Bloom is thinking about breakfast, and he's thinking about Molly's breakfast, what she wants. She's in bed sleeping. He's real attentive to her needs. There's a jingle that's going to appear later in an episode. That's 46, line 59. As she turned over and the loose brass quoits of the bed spring jingled. Now that small little thing is going to reappear and going to be a big thing. Let's see what else. So Bloom decides he wants a kidney. Here, Tweety at 61, 2, 3, 4. Old Tweety, that's Molly's father. And the line here beyond that is, still he had brains enough to make that corner in stamps. Now that was far-seeing. They're talking about money there. So the Blooms aren't hard up for money. Bloom's going to go out, he's going to take a little walk like Ulysses, and he's going to come back to find some letters. And just like Odysseus came home and found many suitors after his wife Penelope, after his journey. And he has a white slip of paper. Quite safe. He's keeping that slip of paper safe. He loses his key to 7 Echo Street. That's where they live. But he loses his key, like Stephen doesn't have a key either. That's going to make an appearance. Arthur Griffith is mentioned. He was Sinn Féin before that. He approaches Larry O'Rourke's pub, and he talks to Larry. Simon Dedalus, Stephen's father, is mentioned here for the second time. Remember in Nestor, he was mimicking his nephews, Stephen's cousins, with the stutter and that. So here's Stephen's dad again, Simon Dedalus. He's going to appear in Hades, episode 6 as well. That's at 111, 12, 13, 14, where he's mocking Larry O'Rourke. Bloom is remembering that. So, and they're stopping to talk about the funeral. Sad thing about poor Dignam. Poor Dignam. Let's see. Check out line 137. Here's some great onomatopoeia. Bloom passes a schoolyard. Specifically, he passes St. Joseph's National School. Brats clamor. Windows open. Fresh air helps memory. Or a lilt. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, K, L, M, N, OPQ, Rusty UV, W. That's all spelled out. That's all spelled out. He's noticing women. The next door girl at the counter, he notices a girl's yams walking up, and a bus comes by and blocks it out at the last minute. This is all, I think, proof that Bloom still has a healthy desire for sex, and a healthy desire in the opposite sex. And his actions do prove that he is in love with Molly still. On page 50, line 218, a cloud began to cover the sun slowly, holy, gray, far. Make a note and follow that cloud. This cloud is going to appear throughout the novel. Also, things to keep a lookout for are a blind man who's walking around, and also the man in the Mac. He first appears in episode 6, Hades, the man in the Macintosh. The next paragraph, we see Bloom's real desire for Molly. Got up on the wrong side of the bed. Must begin again those Sandoz exercises. That's one of his books on the shelf. And he wants to be near her ample bed-warm flesh. Yes, yes. So there's 2 letters. I'm reading verbatim. 2 letters and a card lay on the half floor. He stooped and gathered them. Mrs. Marion Bloom. His quickened heart slowed at once. Bold hand. Mrs. Marion. Then we have Paul D. She's yelling for him. Paul D. Now those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences pack a lot. From those sentences we know that it's from a man, bold hand, and it's addressed to his wife, which is odd in 1950 America, and it's really odd in almost 19th century Ireland. Ireland's only had divorce became legal, I believe, in the 90s, maybe later than that in Ireland. So for Molly to receive a letter in her own name, you know, this is Mr. Leopold Bloom's residence. It should come as Mrs. Leopold Bloom. And so that's a big deal. Then he also has a letter, he looked at them, Mulligar, Millie. Millie is his daughter. Mulligar is a city, it's about 40 miles north of Dublin. So let's get into unpacking these letters. There's a young student, and there's a mention of Blazes, Boylan Seaside Girls. He's feeding the cat, Bloom. He loves animals. He's the new man. Look at lines 280 with the young student. He makes a little song about Millie, his daughter, Millie Bloom. Millie Bloom turned 15 yesterday, and they sent her a present. And he's watching her grow and come into puberty and have her first boyfriend and all that comes with that. And he's seeing little Molly in her. At 3:08, we have a strip of torn envelope peeped from under the dimpled pillow. In the act of going, he stayed to straighten the bedspread. "Who is the letter from?" he asked. Bold hand, Marion. "Oh, Boylan," she said, "he's bringing the program." "What are you singing?" "Lachi Durham with J.C. Doyle," she said, "and Love's Old Sweet Song." Now, Lachi Durham that means then we'll go hand in hand. It's from Don Giovanni. Blazes Boland is Don Giovanni. Man about town, very boisterous, well-dressed, spreads his money around. And the Blooms know him. Bloom knows him. And Molly isn't trying to really, she's maybe tried to keep the letter secret, but she tells him immediately who it's from, so she's not lying about it. And Bloom is going to be reminded of Blaze's bowling in the next few episodes. Check out this line about, this is at 3:31, 2, 3. She swallowed a draught of tea from her cup, held by knot handle, and having wiped her fingertips smartly on the blanket, began to search the text with a hairpin till she reached the word. Met him what? He asked. Here, she said. What does that mean? I just love held by knot handle. Now, Joyce could have said she didn't hold the handle by the, or didn't hold the cup by the handle, he could have said, but he didn't. He said, drinking tea from her cup held by knot handle. I just love that. Molly, they're both readers. Molly likes to read popular fiction on lines 350. Well, they're talking about metempsychosis, and Bloom is explaining it to her, and he explains it correctly. Basically, reincarnation. It's from the Greek, though. And on line 351, 2, 3, did you finish it? He asked the book. Yes, she said. There's nothing smutty in it. Is she in love with the first fellow all the time? Never read it. Do you want another? Yes, give me another of Paul de Kock's. Nice name he has. Paul de Kock's. Cox is spelled K-O-C-K-S. Sometimes Joyce will beat you over the head with innuendo, but we can see, yeah, there was nothing smutty in it. Get her something else, Bloom. Go and get it today, by the way, and make it more smutty. Yes, my dear, yes. Did you leave something on the fire? The kidney, he cried suddenly, so he's out of his reverie about metempsychosis. Now at the bottom of 53, the young student is Alec Bannon. We've been talking about him. He's courting Millie up in Mulligar. And the other letter is from Millie to her father, Dearest Papley, nickname. She's thanking him for the gift of the new tam. That's basically a hat to keep her hair up. And got Mummy's lovely box of creams, and I'm writing. They are lovely. So she tells about her job, the fair day, a picnic, and she talks about Alec Bannon, but she also talks about Blaze's bowling. And she's thinking about the songs that he sings, and she knows him so well, she was thinking of writing him a letter, but instead she says, tell him Silly Millie sends my best respects. So that's what I mean. Bloom is reminded of this Blaze's bowling guy continually. Let's see here. Okay, we have a mention of Mrs. Thornton. She's a Dublin midwife. She's going to be in episode 14, Oxen of the Sun. And she's the one that tried to deliver, or did deliver, Rudy. And here we go. She knew from the first poor little Rudy wouldn't live. And Rudy was born on 29 December 1893. He died. Those girls, those lovely seaside girls. That's the song that Alec Bannon is singing to Molly. And here we have Bloom going off a little too pervish for me about Millie growing up and growing into womanhood. And now we come to the point where we have the first example in literature where someone has a bowel movement in an outhouse. Literally, not only has a bowel movement, but enjoys it. And it's spelled out here. He likes to read at stool. I'm at 465. So he grabs that old number of Tidbits, just a newspaper. Come, come, pussy, come. That's Molly talking to the cat. So he goes outside to the outhouse. It's a fine morning, and he's thinking about this and that. He thinks about everything. There's some Hiberno English here. He walked down. Where's my hat, by the way? must have put it back on the peg, or hanging up on the floor. There was some Bruno earlier too with Molly saying, does he call himself that at home? Does a man call himself that at home? And Bloom thinks about the funeral that he's going to in episode 6. You might do yourself a favor, or I'd behoove you to read the story in Dublinder's Grace. Several characters are going to reappear in the funeral episode, Hades. But not only that, other characters appear throughout. Nosy Flynn is in here. Let's see, a guy in a mother, Halloran, something like that. He's in here. But your way to Ulysses isn't necessarily through a portrait. It's through Dublinder's. We're almost done. 3:18. Might manage a sketch by Mr. and Mrs. L.M. Bloom. That's how it should have, the letter should have been addressed right there. What had Greta Conroy on? She's in The Dead. Greta and Gabriel Conroy, main characters of The Dead. Bolin mentioned again. That was the first night. Her head dancing, her fan sticks clicking. Is that Bolin well off? He has money. Why? I noticed he had a good rich smell off his breath dancing. That's at 5:28. The jerky shaky door of the Jakes. You have to go to the Jakes. That's the John in Ireland. So the episode ends with hi-ho, 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 hi-ho. The bells of George's church. They told the hour. Loud, dark iron. Those bells sound the time, they call it in the Westminster pattern. Each phrase of 4 strokes equals 1/4 hour. So it's 9:45 a.m., 1:45. Poor Dignam, Patty Dignam. I hope you come back. The next episode I'll be doing is Lotus Eaters, and it will be 10 a.m. in Dublin. See you then. Ta-ta.